Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Machan Le'Ra Online Smicha. You know, the Torah says gewaldige things about the mitzvah of Achnasas Archim. Ad Kedei Kach, it says, G'dei Achnasas Archim Yosem Mekabalas Pnei Ashchina. But that is from the Ma'areach, from the host's end. So, in other words, be kind, give away of your time, give away of your food, to host people and to feed people, and it's a great mitzvah. What kind of halachas are there connected to the guest? Anything, how he should behave, how he should respond, he or she. What do we find Shulchan Aruch says about that? First of all, you have to know that the Torah says, Va'achalta v'savoita uveirachta es Hashem aleikecha, that when you eat and you thank Hashem. So in Gemara and the Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim Siman Reish Aleph, it says that if you are eating and somebody's feeding you, you have to not only thank Hashem for the food that He provided, but you have to thank the Balabayas. So every host or every child who's being fed, every person who's being fed has a special chiyuv to thank the Balabayas. So much so, you learn that from Es Hashem Aleikecha, just like you have to thank Beirachta Es Hashem Aleikecha. The Es tells you that there's somebody else that you also have to thank. You hear that? Not only Hashem Aleikecha, you have to thank Es, the host, the one who helped provide you with the food. So it's a gewaldige thing to show appreciation. Now, how you show appreciation, a lot of these halachas are mentioned in Hilchas Derech Eretz, Maseches Derech Eretz, or in Derech Eretz Rabbah, Derech Eretz Zuta. For example, it says the guest has to be very careful not to make the host work too hard. And if you matriach the host, it says hamatriach miguna. It's a disgusting thing. It says in Derech Eretz, hamatriach miguna. In other words, be appreciative of what they do for you and behave, but make them work extra. That's a disgusting thing. Miguna. Now, an interesting shaila. So somebody is feeding you food. Is the food yours now? Could you start sharing it with your friends, or he or she is providing it for you? Don't become a balabas in that person's domain. You think it's a klutz kasha? Actually, in Poskim, there's a shaila like this. What happens if a guest is sitting in a Achnasas Archim place, or he's sitting by a host, and he sees a girl, and he decides, let me go be Mekadesh or give her Kedushin. So he takes the nice cake, anything which is Shavar Pruta you can make Kedushin with, and he used it to be Mekadesh Isha. So the question is, did he just use something that belonged to him? Of course, to be Mekadesh Isha has to be his that he's giving to her. Or because he's a guest and somebody else providing the food, it's not Mekudesha. So this is actually a Machlekes HaPoskim. And this is brought in Even Ezer, Siman Chav Ches, Sif Yud Zayin, that according to the Ramah, if a guest takes the food and is Mekadesh Isha, she's Mekudeshes. Others say that it's Suffolk Mekudeshes, because we see that the guest staying in somebody's house isn't free for all, isn't everything there. He can't even share it with the kids of the host. It's you eat whatever you get. It's for you. If you don't need to eat, you don't take it. It's not. You can't take a bag and go without permission. That's an interesting shaila. Now we know the very famous statement that it's brought in Svarim. It's brought in Derech Eretz, Hilchas Derech Eretz. Kol masha amalach balabayas asay. That whatever the balabayas asks you to do, because you're there as a guest, you listen. Now, obviously, if he tells you to break a isser, you don't have to listen to him. But if he asks you to sit here, stand there, or whatever, change places, you must listen to him. If he, however, asks you to eat things that you know that you don't want to eat, or it's not your standard, then you have to play politically correct. And if you want to avoid it, you're allowed to avoid it. So the statement "Kol masha emelach bayis asay" doesn't apply in food items. It applies in favors. Please do this for me. Stay here. Go there. An interesting thing, the Gemara says that if you became tradition that you go to somebody's house always, and this is where every time you come to this in the city, you stay here, you stay in that place. So the Gemara says, "Lo yishana adam me'achsanya shalei." Always, if you did it, and it's not once in a blue moon, and you just always come to the same place, stay there, because if you change, it looks like something went wrong, and people are going to start bad mouthing the host, your host. And you learn that from Avraham Avinu. But Avraham Avinu, the pasuk says, he went back to the same thing. You're not allowed to be Mishana Me'achsanya Shalei. And the Amoraim and the Gemara discuss, it's so important to prevent people plappling and talking about the host, something went wrong, that the Gemara says that what does it take for me to allow myself to change my place? It has to take, for me to change my place where I stay, it has to be, according to one opinion, until he sees the host hits his wife. Only then he can change it. Or if the host hits him, something dramatic like that, only then you could change the place where you're staying. This is all in the Gemara in Baba Metzia, I think it is. 1 second. It's a Gemara in Erchin, Gemara in Erchin. The Gemara has this machlekes of opinions, and at what point could a person change his place? Erchin daf tazayin amud beis. That is another interesting thing. When a person asks you, where are you staying? So it's good to be mishabeach. Oh, I go there and they're so kind and they're so nice and they're so giving. But it depends to who. If you're talking to decent people, they'll appreciate, they'll honor what you're saying. But if you're talking to stam bloodsucker type of people, oh, he was good, you could get $1 there. So what's going to happen is everybody's going to either run there, and it can be way too overwhelming for them, or even worse, than the people here, though, they're very comfortable and they give out money and this, chas v'shalom, they're going to make a gzela. They're going to steal stuff. So v'chein, a person has to be very smart. From one hand, he has to honor and show respect and be nice and kind to the host and ask how you're doing and ask how's your family, as it all says in Hilchos Derech Eretz. At the same time, to share that information with others depends with who. To praise them to normal people will be fine, but to praise them to people that might lead them to do things that are harmful for the host, you're not allowed to do so.